You're recording.
Second. Can you turn me down?
Pull it up real quick. I'll show you where the holes are. Can you share the presentation if you script on yet?
Hey guys, again, it's Eddie Green, and you guys, well, thanks for coming to the webinar. If you guys are just joining us, please make sure over in the chat section that you put your name and where you're from, and we're going to get started in about 5 to 6 minutes. So thank you guys for the ones that have joined early, and we appreciate it. And again, like I said, we'll get started here in about 5 to 6 minutes. Hello, Amber McGrath, Serpro, Virginia Beach. Sean Lindsay from Kowalski Construction in Phoenix, Arizona. Welcome. And Angela Meyer wanted to tell everybody good morning from Serpro, Virginia Beach. Thanks for joining. Hello, Caitlin Vance and Marlon Thomas from Serpro of Jacksonville South.
Hey, Rudy, can you see the correct label again? He said he got it. Hmm? He said he got the panels.
And again, guys, welcome to the webinar. We are going to get started here in just a couple of minutes. We do want to thank everybody for joining us this morning. Hope you guys are doing well. If you guys have not already done so, please make sure you chime in who you are and where you're from over in the chat panel so that we can welcome you guys officially. We went ahead and put up our first poll. If you guys want to go ahead and respond to that, it's basically your biggest fear about hard contents cleaning. What is that fear? And if you guys want to chime in to what that would be, we do track these results and share them with everybody involved. So looks like we've had quite a few people join here real quick. Again, if you will put who you are and where you're from, we'd like to welcome you to the webinar. Hello, Gary Cooper from AmeriRestore Restoration in Terre Haute, Indiana. Looks like we have Rochelle from ServPro of Tyler. Welcome. And Debbie B from Columbia. I used to live in Columbia, Missouri, actually. Pretty cool town. And we've got Stephen Geronda in from Ebensburg in Indiana County. So welcome. What's up, Nick Panu? So I was supposed to talk to Nick a little bit earlier this morning, and we're going to get to talk tomorrow. So South Philly on board. Looks like we've got Priscilla from On-Site Restoration in Michigan. Our hearts go out to you up there in Michigan and all the residents. Priscilla, we know you guys are dealing with some pretty catastrophic events up there. So hope you guys are doing well and staying safe. We got ServPro of Wall, New Jersey is on board. And it looks like we have Chris, who has just joined us from FIRELINE. He's going to be our premier panelist today. We're just welcoming everybody, and we'll get started. Still got people filtering in, so we're gonna get started here in just a couple minutes.
Morning.
Morning, sir.
How's it going today?
Oh, it's going fantastic.
Excellent.
We're starting to build an ark and grow webbed feet down here in Oklahoma because of all the rain.
I saw that. Yeah, it's beautiful here in Denver.
Yeah, well, I moved back from Colorado Springs about this time, July of last year. It's been up there. My son is a business development manager for Colorado Springs.
Very good. Very good.
I introduced him to the industry, and he's doing really well. And we got the infamous Jamie Sands saying, "What's up? How you doing, sir?"
Hey, Jamie.
All right, guys, again, we're going to get started here in just a minute. We do have our first poll up about what is your biggest fear about increasing your hard contents cleaning and cleaning department. If you guys want to respond to that, and if you'll put where you're from and your name over there in the panel so that we can formally introduce you to the group. We are getting ready to get started. We will leave this open for question and answer session. Hopefully have plenty of time so that you can poll the subject matter experts on this and identify any questions, comments, or concerns that you may have. So.
Hey, I see Dave coming on. Hi, Dave. I've lost my sound.
All right, are you there?
I'm here. Okay, you just
right.
you had me shut off or something.
I was the one that was muted.
Okay, well, I was looking.
There we go. You didn't lose your sound. That was actually my fault.
Okay, good.
Without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started. I would love to introduce Chris and would love to introduce Dave. We've got these guys on from FIRELINE. They are going to talk to us today about the intricacies of FIRELINE, how easy it is to use, and the profitability factors. These guys are subject matter experts when it comes to content. So without further ado, you guys should be able to see the first slide. I'm going to let Chris take it away if you want to introduce yourself, and then we'll get started.
Hey, good morning, everybody. My name is Chris Davis. I'm the Executive Director Trainer at FIRELINE, and I'm just really happy to be here with you today talking about how you can improve your hard contents cleaning profitability and how that's all going to happen.
Dave, you want to introduce yourself as well, sir?
Yes, I'm David Mazer, President of FIRELINE and Ultrasonics International, and I'll be here to assist Chris.
Fantastic. So without further ado, Chris, the floor is yours.
All right, so we're looking at this slide here, which comes to us from Xactimate. Xactimate helps us to define what hard contents are according to their ways of describing it. And it shows the top 20 personal property categories that they are processing. And really, this really comes from things that are being tossed as well as replaced because restorers don't know how to bring them back to pre-loss condition. If you'll look closely at the screen, what you're going to see are red and yellow dots. Those red and yellow dots represent how FIRELINE can help you take your existing book of business and increase your bottom line profitability through the use of technology. In other words, this is not adding something new to what you're doing, but rather taking all those things that are sitting in your factory, in your warehouse, that you've taken off the loss and bringing them back to pre-loss condition. You'll notice the vast majority of everything up on the screen represents what we're talking about in that process. Now, Sean, would you mind going to the next slide for me, please? Now, just so that you understand, those categories, those 20 categories are of what are called the hard contents. And I want you to think about on your job site, when you show up, where do you begin? And I want to reference Stephen Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Successful People, and where he talks with his second habit, the way you become efficient and effective is this point number 2, begin with the end in mind. In other words, you don't just randomly start packing, but instead you must change the process of your pack out. This doesn't really, it isn't really part of what most people do. When we talk about packing to restore, that's different than what most people do. In fact, the business model that we function under is what's going to control our profit. Most all of you, most all of us in the restoration industry, act as if we work for the moving and storage industry. In other words, we pack to move. We evacuate the contents of the home as if we're just moving them from point A to point B. Item C on that screen says, the end goal is to clean and restore. And so what we have to do is recognize our business model fails if we are not doing that. So instead, what we have to do is learn how to pack to clean rather than pack to move, pack to restore rather than relocation. Item D there, the cleaning methods vary by type of item that we're processing. It varies by where it was in the lost site, by the severity of the damage. The material itself also controls process. Its durability, is it delicate, is it porous, is it submergible? Are they plastic, are they glass, ceramic, metal? What are they? Are they electrical or are they electronic? Are they wood? Are they collectibles? Are they silk flowers? The list is nearly endless. And so what we end up doing is teaching at FIRELINE, how do you categorize them properly so that when a worker, let's call her Ainsley, when Ainsley is standing at the sink, processing, cleaning, when she opens a box, she doesn't open up a flea market, but instead opens up a box that has one method or one type of item for processing. So she can, rather than pulling, let's use a real practical example. You're in the kitchen. That box should be packed with one type of item, but instead she opens up a box and she finds a few dishes and ceramics. She pulls out a recipe book and maybe an electric drill. There might be flatware. There might be a whole variety of types of items. That type of packing is really the least efficient for her to process. And so the amount of time it takes to clean each of those items one at a time becomes very time consuming. Instead, item F there, each box should be packed with but one type of material, or let's put it better, one type of category for processing efficiency. That's really what our goal is in this process. You want to go to the next slide there. Okay, so we pack by material type for profit. Remember that material itself controls what process is going to be needed in getting it clean. And so what we have to do is make sure that we have set up the second stage of our job for efficiency, controlling bottom line profit. And we have to take into mind what Xactimate is going to allow us to charge based upon unit prices. And so this is a very complex problem tied into the estimating side. Your estimator has to reflect what your packers are doing, and your packers must pack so that the estimators can actually charge the right line item for profit. If you screw up the job at the beginning, if the pack out is not categorically set up, then your profit opportunities are limited. It's sort of like saying you can't unscramble an egg. What we have to do is pack for profit, recognize what those opportunities are during the job pack out process. Stage one. Let's go to the next slide. FIRELINE has a process for accelerated cleaning, which is a higher profit process. There are 6 factors that control cleaning. What we are going to discuss just briefly are those attributes over on the right-hand side. Now, whether you're cleaning through rag and bucket technology, which we all will do forever and ever as part of our job, I mean, that will never go away. There are some things that will require hand cleaning, but there is a vast majority of items that we can use science and technology to increase our profitability by understanding what those 6 factors are. Notice those 6 factors all wrap around one central issue, which is time. In other words, how much time does it take to clean? If we were to compare hand cleaning versus ultrasonic, FIRELINE ultrasonic cleaning, we can begin to draw a comparison difference away from where and how the whole operation goes. Now, Ainsley, standing at the sink, cleaning in that rag or with the rag and bucket operation, is paid by the hour. And that processing time really for her it's really 8 hours. That's really what it turns into. But for you, the owner or the general manager, what you should be concerned with is profit and profitability with what she's able to produce. She's standing there cleaning one item at a time in a solution. If, on the other hand, we were using a FIRELINE system, we wouldn't be cleaning one item at a time, but we would be cleaning between 1 and 1.5 boxes full of contents at one time. In other words, simultaneously cleaning every item in that routine. You see, when she's standing there at the sink, she's working with, well, the temperature of the water, and her hands will really control how hot that is. It's not a thermometer, but she says, oh, that feels about right. And she'll set up her cleaning solution, which in a matter of minutes goes from maybe 85, 90 degrees down to, well, 70 or less. It cools off. And we all know that cleaning increases, or efficiency in cleaning increases with higher temperatures. We know that if you can increase the temperature, the efficiency will go up and up and up. Now, the science tells us that at higher temperatures, solution or soils will go into more full suspension at higher temperatures. And while it varies, it's about 115 degrees on up that efficiency comes into play. Now that's close to scalding water. In fact, your hot water heater is likely set to 120, maybe 125 degrees. Now, if Ainsley is standing there at the sink and she fills it, that temperature is going to go down rapidly. But with a FIRELINE, what we do is we set temperatures for start, and then over time, those temperatures will increase just through the natural science of ultrasonics. We control pH, we measure it, and we know when to drain and flush the filtered system. What does Ainsley do? She just says, oh, this bucket or this cleaning solution isn't necessarily working. I think I need to drain it. But you see, with a FIRELINE system, what we do is we measure pH. We know when pH gets to a certain point, we need to drain and flush the system. We'll get hundreds and hundreds of boxes of cleaning out of one load. Now, we get to control all those other factors, the power and frequency, the intensity of the energy, and we do it through dials on the equipment. So we can easily control how production can be ramped up through using science and technology. Anybody want to add anything? Dave, do you want to add anything to that?
No, that's correct. I mean, science, technology produces a higher level of cleaning quality, certainly. And certainly the ability to restore things that are currently non-restorable by hand. I mean, that's the big issue with using ultrasonics. You're going to lower your non-restorable list dramatically, but the biggest deal is the production, the speed of productivity, which you can accomplish in an hour versus what you can only do by hand. So those are the three issues that need to be considered, and that's why technology is so important in contents restoration today.
Very
Yeah,
good.
I think to draw a real quick parallel to that, you know, everybody online has done a certain degree of carpet cleaning, and those people that have mastered carpet cleaning understand that the real labor lies within the application of the chemical and letting the chemical do the work.
Yep.
I think that this is a really good parallel to this, as opposed to having one person sit there with a bucket that can only clean something less efficiently because they don't have the appropriate temperature, the appropriate pH, the appropriate frequencies, things like that. You let the equipment do the work for you in a larger format than you can do with just a bucket and a hand.
That's correct. And the reality is, once you set the equipment for a particular material type and contamination level, the results will be consistent all the time. So you're not really dependent on how the technician feels any given day or hour.
Right.
It's really just a matter of moving baskets through the line and let the system clean it using that design.
Right. We put up our second poll, which is, do you currently have an ultrasonic system like FIRELINE in-house? So if you guys would do us a favor and please respond to that if you're currently using ultrasonics, and we'll go on to the next slide.
Excellent. All right. So a lot of people get concerned about what is a system. In fact, a lot of people say, yes, I have ultrasonics, when in fact they have but one piece of equipment. When we talk about ultrasonic cleaning, an ultrasonic cleaning system, what we're talking about is a full 5-stage process. And there is a reason for that. And I'm going to take just a little bit of time to explain what that is. Now, I have 3 different sizes of equipment that are listed. The M series is the mid-size series, which will fit into about a 16 by 16 foot area. A Series 1 and Series 2, which is the larger equipment, about 2/3 larger, it will fit into either an 18 by 18 or 21 by 18 foot pattern. Now, everybody that's cleaning already has hand cleaning stations somewhere. And what I want to point out is that every time we have a sink using a FIRELINE system, we actually have what's a doubling up of actually a hand cleaning station as well. And so wherever your current sink is, you likely can put in a FIRELINE. Now, you don't have to have more square footage to make that happen in most instances. In other words, we use existing space to build a more efficient design. Now, you'll notice on this slide, there are 2 sinks in this Series 2. Actually, there's a Series 1 and Series 2. The only difference between those 2 is how many sinks. The front sink versus the item number 4, which is the rinse detail station. And let me just pose the question, why should we have an upfront sink? And it's really simple. And I'll use the analogy of washing your car, you're washing your truck. The first thing that you do when you wash your vehicle is you drag a hose out and just rinse it off. You let the free-flowing dirt fall to the ground. And in that, you are setting up the second stage. You're removing the gross contamination that just wants to fall off. Now, that means you're going to use less chemistry as you move through to number 2, which is your pre-wash station. Now, a pre-wash is a jetted tub, not a bubbler, but instead a tank filled with detergent that has heavy power jetted action, which tumbles over the contents. This is where the most severe gross contamination is removed, making the items coming out now light soil. In that process, what we're doing is we are filtering, constantly filtering the water solution, which is being pumped and rotated around those contents, so that when those contents come out, they are now light contamination. And we move then to ultrasonic cleaner. Now, the ultrasonic cleaner is actually a combined, the tank and the power tower that stands next to it. And you'll notice those are standing independently for ease of access and maintenance and control. Now, when you go into ultrasonics, what happens is those generators are producing high-intensity sound energy at 38,000 cycles per second. A cycle being what we call a hertz, which is a compression and expansion cycle. When the water is compressed and expanded through cavitation, through the sound energy, that's being broadcast, water is forced into cavitating, which causes an aggressive scrubbing of the contents. Now, the water itself goes through, well, the picture there that was just up, if you can put it back for just a moment, that cavitating bubble, that little jet of water is what happens when a water molecule cavitates. In other words, that energy is stretching the water apart and then pushing it back together to the point where a tiny jet of water collapses. And that collapse, that input or that impact is forcing cleaning to take place. Let's go back one slide for a moment. That is what happens during ultrasonic cleaning. And it's happening thousands, millions of times a second on any surface that is submerged. A unique feature of FIRELINE is we also have what's called dynamic wave sweep, which allows the energy to be uniform throughout the tank so that you don't have hot spots. Instead, you have continuous cleanings that anything that is then submerged will be cleaned on the outside and on the inside simultaneously. And we're doing it by the box full simultaneously. When it comes out of that process and moves to station number 3, or from 3 to 4, we then inspect it to make sure it's fully clean, rinse it off, and then number 5, run it through the drying tunnel, where on the other side, those items are ready to be packed and cleaned. People that say they have ultrasonics often just have one portion of that system, but it's the whole thing that's necessary for productivity. Please notice there is science behind this. There's way too many words on that screen to be of value, but just pick out this. At the very bottom, you'll notice from the scientific chapter on ultrasonics, that little jet of water is at about 15,000 psi. In other words, it is impacting and cleaning at very high temperatures and pressures, yet it's safe and controllable. Let's go to the next slide. Let's watch this being done. This is ultrasonics. This in action. Oh, can you play the video?
Do you have the ability to share that video? It will not play.
It won't play for you. Let me see if I can pop it up.
Okay.
Can Whitney pull that up? Let me see if I can. I've got it right. I have to share my screen, right?
Yeah, let me stop mine.
Okay. And I'm going to try to pop this puppy up. It's coming. Give me just a second. I'll hit. It's just loading. Okay. Give me just a second. Come on. All right. Screen 1, it should be here. Give me a second. Here we go. I've got, can you see it, everybody?
You got it.
Okay, so here we go. We are ultrasonically cleaning. I'm going to start it again. I'm sorry. Here we go. We have some soiled flowers, silk flowers, and I'll just shut up and let you watch it in action.
I think the important thing to note is while we're watching this is that if you were trying to do this by hand, this would literally be hours worth of scrubbing and
on top of it, you couldn't do it. I mean, you honestly couldn't restore that type of item by hand to the level that we do it with ultrasonics. Now, can you still hear me?
yeah, just
Okay.
to do a stop share on your screen.
Yep, I'm trying to get there.
Valerie Wren asked if she can get a copy of that video. Absolutely.
Come on. I don't want to keep listening to music. Come on. It's not letting me not share. I'm not, that screen won't pop back up.
Down up the top, it should say stop share.
Okay, there we go. Sorry.
Oh, totally good.
Okay. All right. So the reason we show that is a lot of people do not understand what is capable of being cleaned, nor have a belief in their system for it being able to perform. In fact, their technicians don't know how to do it. So what we do is we train people all the time. It's not just a matter of here's the machine. You need an understanding on how this works so that you can easily produce it. Let's look at some of these items. You've seen some before and after pictures. The one on the screen right now shows what was a total loss item according to the adjuster. He said, you can't clean that. I can't pay you to clean to get those types of items clean, therefore we'll total loss them. Notice the soot on the inside of the crazed glazing on the outside of that ceramic. Now let's go to the next slide. This is what it looks like after you clean it with ultrasonics. You see, when we have science and technology, we can do this by the box full simultaneously. It's not a matter of having Ainsley or a whole fleet of Ainsleys standing at a sink or sinks trying to clean it. Instead, we let science and technology clean it. And in that process, we make more profit because of those 6 items. Let's just look at them. We get to control the temperature and the pH. We control power and frequency, and we increase the load because we can simultaneously clean the whole box full, or maybe a box and a half full at the same time. And so we do it in 1/3 less time than what it takes to do it by hand, if in fact you can clean it by hand. Let's add one more thing. Before we go to this slide, let's just add one more thing. When you are able to clean things that you can't otherwise clean, what you're doing is increasing sales from the dumpster. In other words, we are able to increase your sales by your ability to restore what was previously non-restorable. Let's go to this next slide and look at the money behind it. If you had 3 people working full-time during the day using Xactimate data, this is not FIRELINE data, this is Xactimate data on hand cleaning. Please note at the bottom, it says this is based on Dallas, Texas, January of 2020. The line item code that I'm referencing is CGNBXMM. That's to clean a medium miscellaneous box of items. It shows the price for that is $40.13. And if we look at the second line down there, it shows the burdened labor rate from the same reference is $20.46 an hour. That is the worker's wage plus what we refer to as the burdens, the shoulda, coulda, wouldas, the general liability, the uninsured liability, etc. Those types of items, $20.46 an hour. Now, if we look at the revenue at just under $1,000, $963, it would take us, according to Xactimate, a little over a day to process that. That would cost us $516, leaving us with 46.5% revenue profit, gross profit. Let's compare that to a FIRELINE series, M series. Those same 3 people during an 8-hour day, rather than doing 24 boxes, could do 72 boxes. In other words, 3 per person per hour. That's 72 times 40, which is almost $2,900 revenue. Almost $2,000 more revenue from the same team for the day. Your labor costs are, well, they're a little less because we can get it done in 24 hours, not having to pay the overtime to get that done. Our gross profit is 83% using those numbers. And if we take out the lease payment for one workday of $29, it leaves us with 82%, about $2,400 revenue compared to about $400 revenue. It speaks for itself. Now, let's talk about what that workday revenue is, or excuse me, the lease payment. We're assuming only a 20-day work month. In other words, 4 weeks, 5 days a week. Now, what would happen if you were cleaning 100 boxes per week, 400 boxes per month? How would that month look? And here we can just see the same set of numbers, except it's going to take 50 labor days to complete the job by hand. Whereas with a FIRELINE, we'll get it done with only 16, little over, let's say 17 labor days. The revenue, we go from 7,400 to 1,300 or 13,000. The additional profit after a 1-month lease payment of $580 for the M series leaves us with $12,750. Again, the comparison shows why science and technology used in cleaning changes your bottom line profit.
Well, I think the important thing to know too here, Chris, is that looking at the poll results, people aren't doing a whole lot of it, and a lot of it is probably due to the fact that it is so cumbersome trying to do this manually. But if you look, the numbers don't lie. Not only are you almost doubling your margin, but you're increasing productivity by as much as 3 to 4 times of what you were currently able to do, therefore padding the bottom line, helping you achieve goals and objectives, and increasing a revenue source that you currently didn't have. And really that's what it's all about. So, there's no way that a system like this could potentially be a bleed. This is nothing short of an asset and revenue generator for the organizations that put these into play.
Well, and let's add one more thing to that, because it's crucial for us to recognize the facts and reality. Most of our contents cleaning departments are small. We have a group of 2, 3, 4 people at best that are doing contents cleaning. Now, larger operations, that's very different. But let's assume you're a small operator, and what I hear is, well, I can't afford to get into this, is their assumption, because we don't have the volume. And the reality is, it's about 40 boxes a month for what is needed to break even on this. In other words, make as much money with or without it. And when you then get that large job, your 3 people can perform like 9. In other words, you don't have to go out and staff up to get more of the work done to get that 50 labor days to complete the job. Instead, your small crew can produce it because you have the equivalent of a backhoe in there doing the work.
So we've got a couple questions, either directed for Chris or David.
Yeah.
From Valerie Wren. The first question is how many jobs should you be able to do with the FIRELINE system per month? And the secondary thing is, say, for a $5 million company versus a $14 million company.
Dave, do you want to take it?
Sure. I mean, the way we look at things is basically production per hour. So, the question comes in, how many boxes do we get out of an average job? Well, that's all over the board, from 80 boxes to 500-600 boxes out of a home. But we always have to look at that in terms of how much production can I gain per person from operating the system. That will determine how many jobs you can do. Well, obviously, Chris has said cleaning by hand, you can only do 1 per hour, roughly. With the M series medium system, that's 9 boxes per hour. So that's 3 times the production rate. So that allows you to complete the job 2 to 3 times faster and take in another job instead of trying to take in another job, add more technical labor or tech help or temporary labor, which reduces, again, your productivity because they're not trained. So it really is a factor where it costs you money not to have a system like this in terms of just throwing labor at it, and most of it is unskilled. So what we like to see is when people employ a FIRELINE, we can identify those 2, 3, or even 4 people that become permanent contents restorers and technicians of ultrasonic cleaning. Rather than throw labor at it when you get the big jobs. These are mainstay people that could be doing other things when we're not cleaning contents, but they're going to be back in the warehouse cleaning contents when the jobs come in. So that way the skill levels grow, become higher, and you get more and more efficient. You can do more than 12 boxes an hour. In fact, we have a gentleman who does 16 to 18 per hour, but he's added another drying system to make sure that the baskets are dry coming out the other end. And a box, another helper, which helps rebox and load baskets. So production is a relative thing. You're efficient, you've got the technology, really production is very, very flexible. But you know, there's no reason why anybody can't maintain a minimum of 9 boxes per hour with 3 people with the M series medium-sized system.
Which I think kind of leads into the second part of that question, you know, about a $5 million operator versus a $14 million operator. I think, you know, you just hit the nail on the head with saying, you know, 3 people can outwork, you know, that $14 million operator may be doing things manually and may not be doing a ton of contents jobs, where the $5 million operator has the same 3 people, employs a system like this, and can outwork that $14 million operator 3 to 4 times over, you know. So
and you can put on second shifts if you need to.
Yeah. So I think what people need to understand about this is that you're not going out, you know, based on size of operation, unless you choose to, based on the contents jobs that you're doing. You can produce 3 to 4 times more work with the same amount of people just by employing this system. So you're not having to go out and go hire additional people. But once you do ramp up that, then you can breathe, and it becomes such a money-making tool. Then you can add additional shifts and take on additional content.
Yeah,
and really,
fact, it's very common for people who, once they get the FIRELINE operating at a high level, to actually reduce their content staff and keep the ones that are the technicians or the ones that really want to excel in that area of restoration. So, I mean, that happens all the time once you have the technology that can give you the speed of production.
Fantastic. And we're going to go on to our last slide here to talk about the Xactimate process. And then we're going to open this up for Q&A to where you guys can poll the subject matter experts. I know Chris and David are chomping at the bit to answer your questions. So,
all right, so let's just kind of wrap this up and understand the third point. We live in a world that is controlled by third-party pricing called Xactimate. Now, you might have a few people that work outside that system, but for the majority of the universe, we are all subject to working within insurance carriers' regulations and, if you will, their acceptance of a third-party pricing known as Xactimate. Now, in Xactimate, there are 10 books of data that relate to contents with about 2,500 line codes, unique selector items that we are forced to use. Because of the complexity of that system, most of us, point B, fail to understand the complexity, and so we revert to time and material pricing. In other words, we use 2 things, or how many labor hours and how many supplies did we use? And I can prove to you that if you do that, you're leaving money on the table. Now, you're going to have a whole lot of hours. You're going to have 2 or 3 times more hours in there, but your margins will remain at no more than that 46.5%. it is virtually impossible. And again, I go through this during the training that I do at our class to explain why and how those items control the world, regardless of whether we use unit price or time and material. Now, I don't know of very many people that can make this claim, but I can. In preparing to teach this class, I mean, I've been working with Xactimate for almost 30 years. I, at one point, was an affiliate Xactimate trainer. And in that process of setting up and training for contents only, I have read and mathematically analyzed all 2,500 line codes. Some of them are reasonably useful for you and will give you something that you can work with for profit. And quite frankly, some of those line items are from the pit of hell. They do not allow you to make any heads or tails of them. During my class, I point out what those are. In fact, I have a whole process of training so that at the end of that day 2 of the class, I mean, day 1, we teach how do you do the pack out. And then day 2, we focus on how do you grow your team, selector of those key people, how do you work with adjusters, and then how do you write the estimate in a way that the adjuster says, I can pay that. And we do it with standard unit prices that offer more profit opportunity for you. Now, you see, Xactimate is complex. There are intense definitions that adjusters are constantly employing and understanding, and most of us don't know what they are. What I do is I use those definitions to help you to justify simply what your estimate is. Now, let's understand, an estimate is not an invoice. An estimate is performed up front. In other words, I go into a job with an estimate. In fact, during the class, I have a simple shortcut spreadsheet where I can, if you have done your inventory properly, I can write a rough estimate in about a minute. And that's part of the class. Based on your own data, based on your efficiency. And that's part of what your staff needs to understand so that when they are packing out, they are working within your standards and with Xactimate's pricing in such a way that, item F, your staff must meet or exceed the definitions that you're working under. And so we write an estimate right up front. You, in that process, then can present to the adjuster, here's what I can settle the claim with you for right now. It's not a matter of, gee, I have no idea because I haven't done it. Instead, we have proven methods that will increase your bottom line profitability. I have people that have reported back to me that they went back after class and they repriced their jobs doing the FIRELINE methodology and found that they were leaving 18 and 19% on the table. Way too much to leave on the table. And so that estimator has to write that estimate up front, give the adjuster the opportunity to close it out right now, and then for you to work within a budget that you know you can deliver. That's part of what we teach in our class. Let's go to the next slide. And you'll see.
I think that's a fantastic segue right there, Chris, because I think, you know, me personally, you know, having been in restoration for a long time, as well as everybody on here, this can be really overwhelming trying to take this all in here in a very short webinar. I personally know that I would love to spend, you know, lots of time with you. So talk to this point about how we can do that exactly.
Well, I mean, the slide that's up shows the classes. I have a little over, I think it's 20 classes that are booked around regionally around the country. And we have been selling out the class. Now, of course, the last 2 months have been kind of wackadoodle, and we're just ramping back up again with limited size classes. So I think we have 1 or maybe 2 open seats in Tampa, We have about the same in Minneapolis. We have a few seats open in Raleigh. Philadelphia and Portland are still ways off. I think Portland is about half full right now, just as a matter of fact. Now, we also talk one-on-one with you in the process. We do an awful lot of consulting with our folks that are truly FIRELINE customers who have attended the class and who are users of the equipment. We become your resource in that process.
Well, fantastic. Well, if they wanted to get in touch with you guys about how to either register or get more information regarding FIRELINE systems, one-on-one consultations, how would they do that?
All right. The web page, in fact, on this slide that's in front of them right there, you'll see they can register at firelineinfo.com. And I will say this, if we fill a class in, well, let's just say Tampa, that's the first one coming up. And if we have sufficient turnout, I mean, that's a Tuesday, Wednesday class, and I know it's going to be filled. If we have sufficient, I will do a Thursday, Friday class right afterwards. Again, dealing with the limitations of size that's imposed on us. But really, firelineinfo.com is where and how to register. Now, are you making our contact information available to everybody, Sean? Or excuse me, Eddie?
We can. So
Yeah.
we can definitely do that. I do have a couple of questions for you.
Cool.
One is, what is the cost to attend a training session? And number two, how does the FIRELINE compare to the Omega Sonic system?
Sure. The cost on the class is $685. And for the 2-day class, that includes a very detailed manual and, well, like I said, the class for 2 days. We typically are holding them currently at hotels near airports. So in other words, I fly in, like I'm flying into Tampa, taking the shuttle 2 miles over to the airport, and then teaching for 2 days, take the shuttle back and fly home. That's really the process of the class itself. And I'll also say, depending on the size of the company, we also do custom on-site trainings for companies. I mean, if you have 5 to 10 people that you have at your facility that you want us to do the class, we'll work with you to provide that for you as well. And that's something we should talk about offline, but it's cost effective for you to do that rather than, say, sending a team of 5, 10 people to that event.
Absolutely. And we do want to let everybody know that everybody who has attended, we will be sending out not only the slide deck, contact information to get a hold of David and Chris, or myself or Sean Lewis, to be able to direct them over to you, but also we'll be sending a copy of this presentation out to all attendees. We do want to go ahead. We've got about 8 minutes left, so we want to open this up for any type of questions and answers that you guys have, questions, comments, concerns, and direct them towards Chris and David. David, while we're waiting on those questions, is there anything you would like to add to Chris's presentation?
No, there's so much more to cover. There's so many between the lines things that are complexities of the course. So our whole training event could easily fill 7-8 days. And that's why we do a lot of on-site training. We have a technical trainer, Richard Melanchak, who's our expert in electronics restoration and ultrasonic cleaning sciences. He's available to go on site and work with anybody. Chris as well does business model training for companies. I know he's done a lot of Xactimate only type classes on site for many companies. So what you're seeing is kind of the tip of the iceberg. We've spent a lot of time doing this. Ultrasonics International was established actually in Canada in 1988 under the name Canadian Ultrasonic Industries. We then moved the company to the United States in 93, and we've been here ever since. But Ultrasonics International has been building equipment and line systems for companies for a long time. We do a lot of industrial equipment for companies like ExxonMobil, Nucor Steel, U.S. military. We've provided cleaner equipment for all of these companies, but it was in 2004 that we decided that we would prepare a line specifically for contents restoration. You mentioned the difference between ours and other companies. Well, every ultrasonic cleaner can clean to a certain extent. That's not a question. That's the fact. But when we built FIRELINE, we looked at things like the items we were processing, what would be required to achieve and accommodate larger items. So we build extra deep tanks. Wave sweep technology is something we introduced. So we would eliminate standing waves and dead zones and offer a more uniform cleaning product. Our filtering systems clean at 3 microns. Our dryer is capable of processing 4 baskets at a time. So that whole system was designed and built for production, speed, and quality of clean. So,
David, I do want to interject something because I think we kind of skipped over it. And if you guys, since we do have a couple more minutes to go, if we could speak briefly on it. I've seen, in consulting all over the country, that a lot of the restoration companies will just have the single standalone ultrasonic unit without everything else. And we talked offline about this, about how important it is that you have the entire system to increase efficiency and quality of product being delivered. Can you guys speak just for a little bit on why it is important that you have more than just the ultrasonic unit itself?
Yes, anybody can benefit from an ultrasonic cleaner. But when you start getting into various types of contents with severe contamination, that's where an ultrasonic cleaner slows down the process. The cleaning bath gets dirty quicker. You have to change out water more often, change out more solution, because in any ultrasonic process that involves line cleaning, there's always a rinse, a pre-wash, and finally the ultrasonic cleaner. So that allows us to clean lightly contaminated contents in the ultrasonic cleaner all the time, because what we're doing is introducing heavily soiled items at the pre-wash or the pre-rinse first, then the pre-wash second, and by the time we're cleaning it ultrasonically, this is all light contamination, which allows us to get the speed of production, which an ordinary cleaner by itself can't do. So for production purposes, that's really important to have all the pieces of the puzzle. And of course,
the whole system also adds to your ability to market your services by having a professional clean room to present to your staff or to present to your customer base, your client base. And so what we have is the difference, and you can show the difference between old school and, if you will, new technology as you become the professional in your area, delivering and being able to show and prove to your customers what clean is.
Yeah, I think that the one thing that whenever we talked offline, and David had a really good analogy too, but the way that I see it is just by having like an ultrasonic unit just as a standalone is like trying to go into surgery with just a scalpel. You've got to have other pieces of equipment to be able to perform the surgery to the fullest potential. And this is much the same way, for efficiency. And like I said, like you had said, we can't control the outcome of the contents that we're going to clean. If that was the case, we could say, oh, we're only going to deal with lightly soot affected contents or light, cleaning. Then a standalone ultrasonic unit might be beneficial, but you don't know what you're going to get, from time to time. So you have to be prepared to maximize the efficiency of each unit. We do have one more question before we get off of here. How long would you say it would take a smart person to become proficient in writing/learning the standard unit price codes in order to make more profit? You guys have 30 years of experience, but what about new people?
Come to the class. I mean, now the assumption is this: you know how to drive Xactimate. In other words, you know how to physically navigate it. What I do is I give you the tools, including a complete ESX file, so that all someone has to do is take it, use it as a template, fill in the blanks. And when you're doing that process that way, then you get consistency, making it something that management can more easily trust is going to always be delivered, rather than just an occasional thing, hoping that the estimator gets it right. And so, and what I'll say for this class is, it is crucial that owner managers come to the class. This is not a low-level class. This is all about setting the office priority, the business model is being established. From this point forward, we will do it this way. If you don't do it that way, what you're going to have is a staff that is going to have to implement a lot of different protocols that no one understands. This has to be a top-down drive. It must be expected by the owner, and the owner has to believe and expect the kinds of services from their staff. Otherwise, they're just going to say, yeah, that was a good class, but it wouldn't work for us. The reality is it works, period. And I mean, I train all around the world. I've trained throughout the US, in Canada, and Australia. And everybody makes the same basic mistakes. And what we have to do is change those errors into correct protocols, so that, you know, we are now making this a profitable venture, rather than just, you know, a one-off that we have to do. Too often a business treats contents as, well, I have to do it. Nobody wants to. And, you know, they either apply their sticks and bricks approach or their water-sucking business model into a third business model that really has to be a true contents business model that allows you to profit, and profit consistently.
And that brings us to our very last question is, do you recommend an inventory system to work with hard contents and the FIRELINE?
Yes.
Simple answer.
Yes. Let me just say, the software that's available today is good from so many sources. What I have found is simple is key. And right now, Encircle is the one that I think is the most bang for the buck. It is the easiest to use and delivers the type of information that's necessary for you to perform. Now, can you use all the other ones? And all I'll say is absolutely. But you have to understand where, you know, what it is that your business is all about. It's why I say an owner manager needs to come to the class, because we make business decisions based on bottom line profit. Your workers don't make that decision. This is a owner manager decision process, and it really requires a complete understanding of what the business model is.
Fantastic. Well, I know on behalf of Tier Level, Sean and myself are huge proponents, and we are honored to be aligned with FIRELINE. We learn so much from you guys every time we talk to you. In fact, you're going to see us at some of these training events to be able to interact with people, but more importantly, so that we can learn and become better versed on this. Guys, if you want more information, by all means, please make sure that you not only get in touch with Chris or David, but you can email Sean or myself, Eddie@tierlevel.com or Sean@tierlevel.com, so that we can get you guys directed over to the gentleman at FIRELINE. Again, if you're not hitting your goals and objectives, if you're relying on named events to be able to pad your numbers, I'm just going to make this statement. As one restoration professional to another, you can't afford not to have this system. You need this system in place. It is a revenue generator. It will increase your ability. It'll even help your salespeople be able to go out and garner a more immediate gratification income through this. So I want to take a moment just to thank the guys with FIRELINE for sharing their wisdom and their knowledge. Go sign up for the classes. You will be better for it. But more importantly, get with these guys one-on-one about employing a FIRELINE system into your current strategy. So thank you guys so much.
Let me just throw out, the web page has the office number on it, as well as David's contact information. I'm Chris at firelineinfo.com, and more than happy to take, help you any way we possibly can in this process.
Yep. And remember, guys, we had put the poll up for the one-on-one webinars. I'm not seeing it on the screen right now. Let me make sure. If you'd like to schedule a one-on-one webinar with FireLine to learn more about how to implement that system for your restoration business, just click yes really quick, and we'll make sure that Chris and David get in touch with you. So guys, that's all we've got. Thank you so much for attending, and watch our website for more webinars to come. And I'm sure you will hear a lot more from FireLine moving forward. You guys have a fantastic day.
Way cool. Happy trails, everybody. Be safe.
Thanks.